Welcome to the Interprofessional Space podcast, where the spirit of inquiry meets healthcare collaboration. In our podcast, we discuss all things interprofessional education. According to the World Health Organization, interprofessional education is when students from at least two healthcare professions learn about, from, and with each other to improve health outcomes and enable effective collaboration. In this episode, we are sharing the second part of our conversation with Dr. Abraham Makanjola from What's Wrong to What Matters, Social Prescribing for Health Agency. So you've told us a bit about training the link workers and all that's being done. I think for me, where I am at the University of Nottingham, where Anne is, and we're doing a lot of interprofessional education with students who are in their undergraduate years. And I really want to know, what have you come across in your research that tells kind of best ways of teaching people to understand what social prescribing is, to play a role in that, or how to incorporate that into their current professional development that they have?
So what I would say, as far as the teaching of social prescribing, I guess I'll speak specifically to an interprofessional lens. It would be really taking the students or those interested out into the community so they can actually live, smell, and breathe what it is that social prescribing seeks to do. Because if it were to just be within a classroom context, then that would, I guess, go against the essence of social prescribing. And I'm going to break that down now because I don't want it to be too much of airy-fairy kind of language. But the reason I say that is because where social prescribing is an umbrella term, it's something that in practice is novel. And when I say novel, over the last 20-year period, but specifically in the UK, social prescribing can officially be traced back to around the 1970s. There is a key location in London, in an area called Bromley by Bow, which is, if my geography is correct, East Central London. And the Bromley by Bow Centre is really, really renowned in the social prescribing space. That is a place where social prescribing has been taking place for, as I said, for decades now. And at the time, they weren't aware of what they were doing. They were just making connections and referrals and bringing people to the center. And to the point where now, in 2025, in the modern day, they are seen as a beacon of knowledge and understanding and at the cutting edge of social prescribing. So the reason why I mentioned that is because in interprofessional education, it's really important to give awareness. And I mentioned earlier on in the podcast that one of the barriers was the awareness of social prescribing. So if we can find a way to make that so accessible and so digestible in terms of understanding, then that's what will help. So as an example, I mentioned that in the UK, in medical degrees now, there is now increased teaching about social prescribing to raise awareness so that, in 3-4 years time, when they do graduate, they have already heard of it. And even if they don't remember, there's already a connection and a link there. And then these doctors can take it where they see fit. Obviously, it's not going to necessarily connect with everything, and it's not going to land in the same way in different areas of medicine. But again, it's a supplement. It's not there to replace. It's not there to remove or to omit things. It's just there to support, which is what all individuals and communities really need, is just a bit of support. And that support could be, you could use it to the 100% of it, or to 100% of its capacity, or you can use it to 5%, whatever is important to you. And that's where this whole personalized and person-centered care approach comes, because we all have different needs. So again, speaking specifically to interprofessional education, the main things I would say is take whether it's nurses, doctors, osteopaths, whomever it may be, take them out into their communities, explain what the situations are, even ask them to see what issues there may be, and then ask them how they would solve it. And then that allows for a really, really hands-on and easy to digest and an understandable means of um, applying social prescribing. And then hopefully that then means there will be more interprofessional collaboration, and then we are no longer siloed and we have multidisciplinary teams, not because we all want to seem important or because we want to inflate our numbers or whatever it may be, but because we'll actually together be able to exact lasting change and trend in a positive and sustainable direction.
Well said. Yeah. So going in a little bit different direction here, in your bio, it talks about Project Zero WF in London, and I don't know anything about that. Could you educate me about what Project Zero is?
Yes, of course. So Project Zero WF, the WF stands for Waltham Forest, which is one of the 32 boroughs in London. So London obviously is a massive area or landmass. And yeah, there are 32 boroughs, which I guess are like smaller towns, if you will. Not quite a county, because obviously counties are way bigger than that, but smaller towns within London. So Waltham Forest is in, geographically, it's the northeast of London, but there is no northeast postcode, so it would be East London. So within that, the reason Project Zero is a youth charity that seeks to engage young people in positive activities. And the reason why it's called Project Zero is because we hope to see a year where there have been 0 deaths as a result of violent knife and gun crime. And the way we do it, though, is not by banging the young people over the heads with conversations and speeches about put down the knives and put down the guns. It's more a case of you're focusing your attention on this. Let's shift your focus and help you pivot and focus on all the other good things you can do. And as a result, if you're engaged, hopefully, in positive things that interest you and fill you with hope and give you opportunities to do things you enjoy, experience new things, and connect with people, then we don't then have to tell you to put down the knives or put down the guns or not engage in these things. It's the same way I'd say, for example, I don't really like eating fish. And so people ask me, oh, how do you live your life without eating fish? Well, it's very easy. There's so many other foods I enjoy, so I don't have to focus on the fish. The fish is actually irrelevant to me. I don't ever consider it until other people then bring it up in conversation, but I just focus on all the other things I can eat. And that's kind of our approach at Project Zero, is just really make them aware of everything else, and then it becomes very simple to drop the negative things out. Obviously I say that and it sounds simple. It's not always a simple thing, but every day we're doing our best to like make a difference. So we do sports, we do employability workshops, we do alternative provision, which is a way of supporting students and young people that have been excluded from mainstream education. We do arts and crafts, music. It's just a place. Our center is, as I said, it's based in Waltham Forest, specifically in an area called St. James Street, or off of St. James Street. And the center is a place where we just hope the young people feel safe to come be themselves, engage with one another, share differences, share experiences, build friendships, and then take those things to their into their futures and into their lives. So it's something that, or it's a place that I'm really passionate about. I know the founder, Steve, really, really well, and he has been honored for all his good work and efforts. He received, I believe it's a BEM. Again, I'm going to have to Google it to make sure that I do due justice as to what it means. And it's a British Empire Medal. So he essentially was honored for the work he's done, because he has about 20 years of skin in the game, basically. It's driven by personal experience. He lost two of his younger cousins to knife crime. And as a result, I can say without the numbers that he's helped thousands of young people. And I have a bit of evidence to support that, because at Project Zero, I currently am responsible for monitoring and evaluation. So Project Zero is so engrossed in doing the good work, they haven't stopped to take the time to account for it. And so it makes it challenging at times to get bigger pots of money from grants, and also just to even see how we are improving. So when I spoke to Steve earlier on this year, he said, "Oh, could I come in and help with this?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." I've known Steve for we're coming up to 14 years now. So as a result, I really believe in what he's doing, and what we are doing, and not because of him himself, but because the evidence speaks for itself. And my job now is to just demonstrate that and share the narratives, the stories, make sure that we can also reach out to other people. And the goal is essentially build up our learning so that we can improve, share it with our stakeholders, so the young people, their parents, the local council, the local communities, and then hopefully then that information with our stakeholders then means that we have stronger grant applications, and we can ultimately attract more funds and money in order to essentially be able to do the projects that we need to do. But obviously that's a domino effect. At the barest minimum, at least if we can say that we are improving, hopefully then we will attract the funding that we need. But our main goal is to serve the young people in the area that we are placed in. So that's a little bit about Project Zero.
Well, I was just thinking, I mean, it's so phenomenal. Why just when we're running them now, interprofessional education around safeguarding. So in the UK, that's, you're looking after vulnerable people in society. A lot of those are children. One of our scenarios that we talk around are a couple of vulnerable children that are brought into like trafficking, county line situation. But again, if you can recognize, we're talking about social prescribing, like you could then refer, or signpost those children to your organization. And that could then help them. And that is here we've kind of come full circle, I feel like, in everything.
Yeah.
But that's also the kind of place that people could, be referred to say, look, like, we're noticing this, you're coming in, we have concerns for you, we want to look after you. Look, you have other options. You don't need to be, dragged into this. You can do something different. And that's hard, but that's the hard work. I mean, but life changing, like you said. I mean, that will make a profound difference. I'm sure it already has for people. Wow. Good.
Yeah, that's profound work, and I'm just really, it's giving me a lot to think about.
I love that you're using your skills to, obviously your research skills and everything, and you're able to bring that back into something. I think that's always the goal, isn't it? To find stuff, your skill set, but align it with something we're really passionate about and that we really want to support, and that you're able to do that, because isn't that kind of the dream, I think. Yeah.
No, 100%. And one thing I'll say is that I loved being in academia and in research. I didn't really give a full background, but I did my master's at Bangor University. I then stayed on as a research officer in the Centre for Health Economics and Medicines Evaluation. I then moved over to the University of South Wales, and I was working more on public health. And that was a very rigorous and academic environment. And it really gave me a lot of tools and understanding and knowledge. And that's also how we were all able to meet through that, through those roles. So I'm very grateful for that. And what I would say is now, the difference is though, when we were commissioned for research projects, we would do the research, we would write our reports, write our academic journals, our manuscripts, and then we'd be done. Whereas on this side, I'm responsible for making sure that the reports that I write and the data I collect feeds into something that's ongoing. And it's not to say that you can't do that as a researcher, but because I'm on the ground, I actually have to keep chasing things up. So I really appreciate and I loved research or academic research, and I also really enjoy this side as well. So two sides of the same coin essentially.
So another thing I wanted to ask you about, excuse me, is your work as a co-curator of an exhibition at the National Museum of Wales called Demystifying Acquisitions. Can you talk a little bit about that? I'm curious.
Yes. So essentially, I was part of a group that curated an exhibit in the National Museum of Wales in Cardiff. and also known as Ngebva Cymru. So in Welsh, Ngebva is museum, and then Cymru is Wales. So um, within that, it was a 2-year project, and essentially it was the first time, at least in the museum's knowledge, that the executive decision to create an exhibit was given to people that were external from the museum structure. So although we received money and we were paid for our work, we weren't employees of the museum. And so our exhibit was demystifying acquisitions, and essentially it's what is on the tin. The project sought to give an insight into the acquisition process. So that's writing grant funding, how we source art, who we need to speak to, how we speak to them, and then the word has just escaped me now, but there's the curatorial process of setting up the exhibition. Oh, the words come back now. Conservation as well. So how the artwork is stored and all this kind of stuff. So we had this 2-year essentially program of learning, and it culminated in being able to curate an exhibit. And to date, it's still the thing I think I'm most proud of in my life, despite the fact that, in fact, not even despite of, because it was co-curated as well. It wasn't just done by myself. And we got the official numbers back of the exhibit. It ran in 2023, from March until June. And in that 3-month period, 42,000 people saw the exhibit. Which, again, speaking as a researcher or a monitoring evaluation lead, that's impact. A lot of people got to see the work, and essentially the work that we decided to spotlight was mainly an artist called Chris O'Philly. So he is a British born but of Nigerian descent artist, and he did some etchings and he titled it North Wales. So it's a collection of 10 pieces, and he'd received prizes and been spotlighted all over the world, but the work had never been shown in Wales. And it was so when somebody realized, I was like, how has that happened? And this has been he did the work in 1996, and someone only realized that or took action about that in Wales in 2021. And as I said, then our projects got commissioned, and then it actually was displayed in 2023. So we set up the exhibit based off of or around that, and that was the linchpin. And then we were able to bring in other works that we really enjoyed. So we went into the museum storehouse. We were also able to say that there are some external artists that we'd like to spotlight. So people that otherwise haven't had a voice or who have been overlooked or things like that. And then also within the storehouses, artists whose work has been stored but not been displayed. So we were really able to put a light on things that had otherwise not been seen. I can share some links as well, because again, unfortunately, not necessarily unfortunately, because everything has its time, but the exhibit is no longer live. But yeah, we're really, really proud of it. Also, we were able to write the museum labels, and I don't know how much you know about museums, but typically when you write the labels, the people that write them, they're anonymous. But the museum allowed us to sign our name, so everybody got to see that this is the work that we specifically wrote about and why it resonated with us. But it wasn't just personal opinions, because naturally when we're presenting the artwork the same way as research, we have a duty of care to essentially say what it is and not just feed our own personal information to it, although that's an aspect as well. So yeah, that's demystifying acquisitions. It was an amazing 2 years. As I said, it's one of the best things that I've ever done. And as a result of it, every so often the museum has asked me to write some articles for their digital magazines. So that's why I really like working with Ngebva Cymru, because they it wasn't tokenistic. It wasn't a flash in the pan. It's quite sustainable, because again, I think my last article came out either the beginning of this year or the end of last year, and the project ended in June 2023. And although I expressed that I'd like to still be involved, someone still reached out to me. I didn't apply for anything or ask or even know what they wanted me to do. They just said, we'd like to have you involved. So yeah, that was an amazing 2 years.
So we're at the point in our interview where we're going to ask you a series of questions. They're called the pivot questions, and they're inspired by pivot questions used on a TV show called Inside the Actor Studio. So this is where we got the original questions, but we've sort of adapted them for our own use. So you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. All right. What is one thing about your profession that you wish other members of the team or other members of society knew about the work that you do?
I'll speak specifically about my team at Project Zero. I wish that they realized how involved they are. And the reason I say that is because I will come up with my research protocol. I'll speak to Steve and see what it is that we need to evaluate and how we need to do it. And then the good thing is that one thing I love about Project Zero is that as much as I'm in the office, I still come downstairs to the center and engage with the young people. And like, last week I was driving a minibus for 2 hours of young people up and down. So that's very far away from monitoring evaluation, but I'm still like in the mix and getting my hands dirty and stuff, so to speak. But the reason I say that is because oftentimes I am in the office a lot. So sometimes in the beginning, actually, because they're a lot better with it now, my team members didn't always realize if I say, oh, can I get this questionnaire filled out, or can you tell the young people to do this, I think they would see it as we're two separate kind of entities, even though we're all working for Project Zero. They didn't realize how important their speaking to the young people about the work was important. They just thought, oh, it's just for me to do, and I just come downstairs and do an interview or record this case study or give out this questionnaire. But that's something that I'd say it's resolved now, but I wished in the beginning that I was like, oh, can you help me out? Because if there's 10 of you, I can only speak to so many parents and so many young people. But if you all have access to the questionnaire or the information or whatever we need to collect, you guys do it too, and we can get to it faster. But it was a process. One of the projects that or one of the interventions that I evaluated, it was a 3-week one. And in the first week, I was doing everything kind of by myself. And by week 3, I had everybody pitching in and helping out. And obviously, again, they just think, oh, it's just for you to do as the monitoring and evaluation lead. But it's like, no, it's all for us to do. Oh, sorry, it's for all of us to get involved in, because I can't collect the data as a singular person. There's only so many people I can speak to, but together we can actually make it happen.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's a good point, I think, sometimes where, you really do need your team, supporting. Absolutely. And we're on the same page. Yeah, absolutely. I think we run across that with IPE evaluation, or even encouraging students to come to things. And it's like, no, we need you to reach out. Everybody needs to reach out. We're all in this together. This isn't separate. It's interesting. Okay, so do you have a favorite medical word, and what is it?
Yes, I do. And that would be remission. Reason being, because I guess for serious illnesses or diseases, I guess I'm not sure why. This speaks to, I guess, my ignorance or lack of awareness, but I know you're not allowed to say that somebody is healed. But if you're in remission, it means that, at least at this present time, there isn't anything that we need to be concerned about right now. It may come back, it may not. And the reason I say remission is just because you can't use healed. But then if I were to extend it, I'd say just healed or healing or anything like that. Because, it's I see these things on social media all the time where someone's on a ward and they get to ring a bell because they're now in remission, they're now healed. And I always see those videos and I stop and I smile, because I'm like, I can't speak to that experience and I pray I never do, from a loved one's perspective or from the person actually in that situation. But for that moment that I watched the video, I stop and feel the same joy as them, because it's like, I don't know what your story is, but I know to get to ring that bell, it means you've gone through a lot and you've now arrived on another side. So I think, favorite medical word would definitely be remission.
That's lovely. What is a profession other than your own that you would like to attempt?
Like to attempt. I I think I would really like to attempt being a carpenter. Um, because it's such a skilled profession and there's something so satisfying about creating something and then being able to use it or somebody else to use it, and not just for one time, but well, hopefully in perpetuity. But I guess, things break down, so it's not possible, but for tens of years, 20, like 2 decades, 3 decades, whatever the case may be. But I think that that would be really cool. And I think if I were to get into some form of trade, I would be making things all the time, just for the fun of like being able to say, oh yeah, that table you're sitting or that you're using, I made that. Or, and not to show off, but just the pride that it's
Mm.
i've
Yeah.
I've conceived an idea, I've drawn the measurements down, I've chopped down what I need to chop down, and then I put it together and it works. I think that's really, really amazing. And what kind of actually made me think about that and come to that kind of conclusion is I was listening to a podcast like years ago, and at the end, similar to this, they said, "What if you went on holiday and then you suddenly lost all your money and your passport? What skill would you use to then earn money to be able to buy your ticket and leave?" And
Mm.
initially, I was like, "Oh, well, I can use my research skills." But then I was like, "Well, if I'm stranded, I probably don't have access to a laptop or internet, so I need something that can sort me out quickly." And basically, in the podcast, they were like, "Yeah, those who have some form of like, um, I guess, for lack of a better term, blue collar kind of skill, they would get out faster than those of us that are behind computers and stuff like that, because we don't have
Mm.
access to our tools."
That's an interesting question. I like that.
Yeah, I would actually like to throw it back to the two of you as well. If you needed to leave this situation, what skill do you think you would use to get out?
I'm a nurse, so I would get bedside as quickly as I could start taking care of people. Yeah, good question though.
I know. I think I'd probably have to go back to waitressing.
Mm.
It's like, yeah, that's probably the only thing I can count on at that point. Because I've got public health, but that's again, it's not going to be. I can't actually heal anybody. I can
Mm.
you can do a bit of research around it. I can talk to some people, but that's probably not enough. So, yeah, no, that's great. So, is there a profession other than your own that you are like, no way would I ever do that? That is just not me. Not that you don't respect it as a profession, but something that you were just like, oof, no.
Just not for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely have the utmost respect for it, but anything physics related, not for me. Um,
Me neither.
it was, and in school it used to bother me because um, I'm not by no means a world-renowned mathematician, but I could definitely say I understand maths, or I guess for your potentially the US listeners, math. And because I was like, I didn't find too much difficulty in it. Again, I still had to go and study, but I could figure out and follow the logic of it and get to what I needed to get to. But with physics, I used to struggle all the time, and my physics and maths teachers used to say to me, "But maths is the language of physics. So therefore, if you're good at maths, you should then be good at physics." And my grades said the opposite. My maths grades weren't clear, and my physics grades were like average, and I really had to work really, really hard just to get a C. Whereas with maths, I put in a little bit of effort and I got an A. To get the A plus, or in our case the A star, I didn't have to put a lot more work in, but at least I knew I was within range of an A, which I was proud of and happy with. So now, especially once I found out that even for maths, when you get to undergrad level, they don't use numbers anymore and stuff like that. I was like, if I now have to try and take that to like quantum physics or all these different theories, I would spend every waking moment trying to be good at a job that's just not for me. So I have the utmost respect for anyone doing anything physics related. Yeah, they've got it. I look at them like, wow.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I'm the same. Same exact thing. It just does not, my mind does not go there for some reason.
Yeah. All right. What is a sound or a noise that you love?
So, it's funny. I actually was speaking to my girlfriend about this recently. Uh, a sound that I love, or I'd say there are three sounds that come to mind. The first sound is of a baby or a child laughing. Um, just because when you hear those kind of laughs, you know that it's just pure joy. There's no, or hopefully there's no pain behind it. There's no trauma. There's no nothing. It's just that is a really funny thing, and it could be something that's like not funny or not even like interesting, but just to hear that, like, that would put me in a good mood no matter what. Like, I'd be, even if I was like really mad about something, if I heard that sound, it would like immediately disarm me. So I hear that a lot in my nieces and nephews. um Another sound or collection of sounds, I love basketball. So hearing a swish, the screech of people's sneakers on the gym floor, or trainers for us in the UK. Hearing
Yeah.
the squeak of people's feet,
Hmm.
love that. And then just the bouncing of a ball on the blacktop, on the court, on the hardwood floor, whatever it is, that just puts me at peace. And then the final one that I really, really love as well is when you're in the gym and like the sound of two plates hitting together when you're like loading the bar. It's just like, okay, that's time, it's time to go to work, and it's like, let's get to it. So that those are the three premier ones. But like, again, when I was speaking to my girlfriend, she said the sound of the ocean, and I was like, yeah, you can't beat that at all.
Yeah.
But
Sure. Sure.
but yeah, those three specifically are the first three that come to mind.
Cool.
What
Yeah.
is one career you imagined doing when you were a child?
There are a few. Uh, like any young boy in the UK, there was a time I wanted to be a professional football player. So again, for the US listeners, a soccer player. Um, then it transitioned to I wanted to be an actuary. Um, for those that don't know, actuaries use statistics and probabilities to work out the likelihood of insurance events. I wanted to do that from the age of 12 until 20.
Yeah, I
And
was
then
gonna
at the
say what? What
That's
made you
new.
want to do that at 12?
you know what it was? There's a TV show that used to come on Disney Channel called Kim Possible. And
Hmm.
one of the protagonists' parents was an actuary, and they made it seem really cool and stuff. And then when I researched about it, obviously I knew that you're not going to be able to shoot mass laser beams with your mind, but I was like, what I read, I was still like, oh, this is quite cool. It's interesting. It earns well. So like, these are things I was thinking about for some reason as a 12-year-old. So yeah, from 12 until 20, like if you woke me up in the middle of the night, Abraham, what do you want to do? Actuary. Um, but the funny thing is that I actually was a backup as well. When I transitioned to playing basketball after playing football, there was a time, naturally, again, I wanted to be a professional basketball player. But when I realized that wasn't in reach, then actuary really became the main thing, which is funny to say that was a backup at a time. I think it's good that children can be delusional sometimes. But anyway, I digress. Um, the reason it stopped being the case was, um, for university, I initially applied to get into actuarial science degrees, but I wasn't successful. So I did my undergraduate degree in economics and French, because when I looked at the path of an actuary, as long as you have done some form of quantitative, um, or maths or numbers related kind of degree, then you can still, in some cases, get exemptions to exams, but at least your brain is warm to that kind of thinking when you're done. And then at the end of my undergrad year, number one, I actually really enjoyed economics. But number two, I had there was a introduction to statistics course, and for years I was convincing myself that I love statistics. And then one day I was like, I actually don't really love this like that. Maths is fine, but statistics is like a whole different, as we say in the UK, it's different gravy. So I was
I
like, yeah,
love
this
that.
isn't, it's not really for
Different
me.
gravy.
Yeah, it's not really for me. So in the end I just had to respectfully bow out. And what's funny is, to kind of land the plane, when I was 14, whilst I was when I joined my first basketball club, I was telling my coach when he was like, "Oh, if basketball doesn't work out for you, what do you guys want to do?" And I was telling him about actuarial science and stuff like that. And he's like, "What's that?" I explained it to him, and he's like, "Wow." And he was always from that day, he was always on my case, because he was like, "You're okay at basketball, but it's probably not going to happen like that or how you think." He didn't discourage me, but he was just like, this actuary thing though, especially the passion you're speaking about and how intelligent he believed me to be at the time. He was like, "Yeah, really go for that." And then we, obviously, when I got older, I left the club, played for other clubs and stuff like that, and I didn't see him for about 14 years, which until this year, and or 15 years, because I think I left the club when I was 16 or so. But anyway, I digress. Hadn't seen him for years, and he was refereeing my current men's team basketball game. And so as soon as we saw each other, we started laughing, because we were like, "Wow, we haven't seen each other in ages." And we were both like, "You look exactly the same as the last time we saw each other," which is, I guess, more of a compliment for him, because he's older than me. But I say that to say, the first thing he asked me was, "Did you become an actuary?" And I said, "No, I didn't." But I said, "You still be proud, because I was in the process of finishing my PhD." And naturally, he was proud, so it was nice to hear. But yeah, that was a nice roundabout thing, roundabout way of ending everything, basically. So
How nice for you to be able to reconnect. I'm sure that meant a lot to him, I would think.
yeah, it did.
He remembered you and your passion for your studies. That's neat. Okay, so last question. What book are you currently reading, or is one that you would recommend?
Again, probably another long-winded answer, but I would say book I'm currently reading is a book called The Fatherhood Principle. So it's by the late Dr. Miles Monroe. He is he was a pastor from Bahamas. I think specifically Nassau, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. And the book is not specifically just about being a father. Like I'm quite a way away from that still. Would like to get married to my girlfriend and then have kids and do all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, the book speaks about fatherhood as a whole. So what man's role is in society, and it speaks specifically to that. The term father is actually, I'm going to butcher this, but there are some, in terms of its etymology, it connects to creation. So it's not just about creating life and having offspring and your seed, but it's also about creation of ideas, stewardship of the responsibilities you have. And again, if you just judge the book by its cover, you'll think it's just about being a dad, but it's not just about that. It's even in your singleness, because not everybody wants to be a father or wants to be married or whatever the case may be. Fathering the things that you have in your stewardship, whether it be leading teams, your ideas, being a upright and moral citizen or whatever the case may be. So that's a book I'm reading right now. Enjoying that. A book I would recommend. I'm a Christian, so I'm not really ashamed about my faith in that sense. So I definitely say I'd encourage people to read the Bible. A lot of, even though it seems archaic and out of touch, I'd say there's a lot of wisdom and a lot of comfort in that as well. And then another book I would say from I guess a more secular lens, a book I definitely recommend is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey. And again, maybe that's not even secular, because I think he professes to be a Christian as well. But that's not the reason I speak about the book. It's more because there are so many practical takeaways from that book that I read the book one time 9 years ago, and I still apply the stuff to this day. And it really helped me with time management. Now I'm by no means at the end of my journey. I'd still late at times, or turning things late, or procrastinate, but this has really helped. And one of the main things that it mentioned was a small tool was the Eisenhower matrix. So it's there's 4 quadrants, and it's basically, in fact, I've got it funny enough up here. I don't know if you can. No, you can't see it, but essentially it has 4 quadrants. So the categories are urgent. So urgent here, not urgent, and then important and not important. So if I'll try and guide everyone. In the first quadrant, it's urgent and important, and that considers tasks that are fires. So if something's urgent and important, it needs to be done right now, this second. Like there's no time for delay, no time to think. And that's a place that you don't really want to spend too much time, because if you're constantly putting out fires, then you're in a high state of stress. You don't have time to think or plan. You just have to move and go, go, go. Then the next quadrant is not urgent but important. This is the place that we all want to spend all of our time, because it means if something's important but not urgent, you can plan, you can think, you can conceptualize, you can really take your time and move sustainably to what you want. Then at the bottom, quadrant 3 is urgent but not important. So those are interruptions like phone calls, emails. It feels urgent when you have a phone call, but you could literally pick up and just say, I don't have the time to speak to you right now, but I'll speak to you later if that's okay, and go from there. And then finally, not urgent and not important is like trivia, busy work, sometimes doom scrolling if you're on social media. And the reason why I say that is because, like, when I have a list of things to do, sometimes I feel paralyzed because I'm like, I don't know where to start. As soon as I draw this quadrant, I very quickly know where I need to be and what I need to drop out. So that was a very small takeaway from the book. And I know he wasn't the one that coined this quadrant, I don't think, but this is just a small snapshot into what the book can really, really help people with. So yeah, that would be my recommendation, or those are my recommendations.
So those are our questions, and that wraps up our interview. And I just thank you so much for sharing your time and your insights and your experiences with us. It's been wonderful to have you here.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a really great conversation. So really appreciate you coming on and sharing everything that you're doing. It's really, it's been really inspiring to me. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
No, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
So before we sign off, we want to remind you, whether you're a student, a practitioner, or an educator, the work that you do is important, and it can be very stressful, but you are not alone. Please take care of yourself, and let's look out for each other. We hope you can join us again soon. Thanks for joining us on this journey to better interprofessional education and collaboration. If you found today's conversation valuable, please like, subscribe, and share the episode with colleagues. Together, we can shape better practice through connection and conversation.